Hello. So, you came here because you think you lost the love of your life, correct? Yes, that's what I read on your chart. Oh dear. So many things are wrong in this one statement. But do not worry. I am a certified psychologist as well as a love advisor, if you can call it that. And thus I will help you getting over your true love. So let's start from the beginning. How did you meet your ex-lover? Interesting. Oh, it was through our dating agency. Oh, well, I am sad that it didn't work out. So your matchmaker advised you to consult me. Very clever. Smart move. I mean, these things happen quite a lot, you know. People fall in love and get dumped after a few dates. Not saying that it is your case, but you obviously got dumped, or the relationship ended for a reason or another. And so the agency hired me to help out those who failed at love. It is in their interest if you don't go suicidal. Imagine the bad press. Anyway, let me ask you, how long did you date your ex-lover for? Oh, I am guessing that you reached stage 3 then. Oh, let me explain. Basically, there are 3 stages of love, and these stages are lust, attraction, and attachment. Stage 1, lust, is when you basically are driven by a bunch of hormones, such as testosterone and estrogens, and basically this is when you can't help having coitus all the time and everywhere. And stage 2 is attraction, and that is when you basically can't think of anything else than the person that you're currently involved with. And this is obviously also explained by science, since 3 neurotransmitters are involved in this stage, which are adrenaline. I'm assuming you know what adrenaline is. You don't need to be a doctor such as myself to know that adrenaline is, what makes most people sweat with their heart racing and their mouth going dry. And the second neurotransmitter involved in that process is called dopamine, and dopamine is a chemical that stimulates desire, and basically it has the same effect on your brain as cocaine, which is not bad considering you feel like you need less sleep and food, which would be in theory good thing, since it would enable you to be more productive, except that you end up using all this free time to fornicate. And finally, the third chemical that is involved in stage 2 and is responsible for your infatuation is called serotonin. Very, very, very important chemical, which explains why your lover keeps popping in your mind. So, do you feel like when the relationship ended, you had reached stage 1 or stage 2? Oh yes, of course. This is a very interesting question. Of course, early love does change the way you think. Basically, this chemical cocktail makes you idealize your lover and glorify his virtues, magnifies his virtues. Basically, this is that moment when you think that your couple is unique, that your love is special, that you're not like everyone else, and of course, it does sound silly, but when you're thinking that, it's perfectly natural, and it's also absolutely necessary for you to think that way in order to enter stage 3 of love, which is attachment. And basically, attachment is the last stage, and this is when you form the bond that keeps you and your partner together long enough to enter a marriage that is most likely to fail. And basically that enables you to want to, breed. So you probably think that the thought of starting a family, of getting seriously involved with someone, would rely on logical thinking, but no, it actually is relying on 2 hormones as well, which are actually released during and after coitus or sex, if you prefer. These hormones are called oxytocin and vasopressin, and they are also known as the cuddle hormones. I know, gross. And the antidiuretic hormone. Yes, it has something to do with kidneys, but we don't care about that. So the bad news for you is that you reached stage 3 of love, which means that for you it will be much harder to recover than after stage 1 or stage 2. And therefore, yes, it's going to be hard, but there is a silver lining, and you can find comfort in the fact that love can be scientifically explained, which means that it is a false concept. True love is a false concept. You should get that in your mind right now, that true love is a myth. It does not exist, and it has been fed to us for centuries through literature and art, and most recently by Hollywood and Korean dramas. But nonetheless, it is an absolute lie. So I will help you deconstruct the concept of true love and give you advice so that you make a quick recovery. I am not going to lie to you. Stage 3 of love is quite serious, but there is always hope for a quick recovery. And it only seems hard right now because you've truly developed a bond of trust and affection with that person, and now it's all gone, and the sex is gone too, which makes it harder. But more importantly than the sex, you feel like you've lost your best friend, and you wonder how it would have been had you done things differently, and you are overwhelmed with nostalgia, regrets, and you are also wrongfully over persecuting yourself over the breakup, probably blaming yourself and wishing things had gone completely differently. So we will start with breathing, because you keep crying and it is quite difficult to be talking to someone who keeps sobbing. So breathe and calm down, because there is no need to worry. Absolutely no need to worry. I'm going to write some things right now because I'm a psychologist, so I need to write stuff. I'm not saying anything, but you can talk if you want. This is a safe space. You are encouraged to talk to me. Of course, these feelings are completely natural. Now, there are some keys that would enable to make your everyday life better until these feelings go away and everything goes back to normal. And I'm going to give these keys to you. So the first thing that you must not do is idealizing your ex. I am assuming that you live a pretty dull life, right? What do you do for a living? See, that's what I was saying. Oh, don't take it personally. Not everyone has the wits to become a psychologist and thus having a challenging yet fulfilling work life. But I mean, well, work is not your issue today, or at least not the one that we are addressing today. So let's go back to your ex. But what I'm saying is that it does not help to have a boring life if you're dealing with a breakup. You have nothing to distract yourself from that pain that you're feeling. So, of course, after a breakup, you feel upset. You feel like you're missing a part of yourself. And that is because, as I previously explained, love is similar to a drug. And basically, when you stop taking a drug, you feel or you experience withdrawal syndromes, and well, you feel the need to take that drug again. So you feel the need to see that person, to call them, to text them, to talk to them. My personal advice, if you are someone who tends to go out a lot, is that if you find yourself to be under the influence, if you know what I mean, you should definitely give your phone to someone that you trust, your friends, so that you don't end up drunk texting your ex, which would result in horrid humiliation on the next day. So you should pick what I call a safety person and give them your phone once you feel like the effect of alcohol or whatever you're on is kicking in, and then you're safe. And if you manage to survive the withdrawal period, then you should enter a phase of I don't want to call it depression, but it's sort of depression, which I believe is where you are right now. Yes, it is a very normal stage of grief, and well, that is the stage when you think fondly of your ex, thinking life would have been so much better had you both kept on dating. And it is of course a natural thought. But if your life is not fulfilling, if you're not satisfied with your life, you will tend to project your fantasies and dream onto that person, finding comfort in the thought of them becoming the outlet of these fantasies. So basically, you find comfort into thinking that maybe things could have been different, but not only is this absolutely unlikely, it is also absolutely pointless. I mean, think about it. If you had stayed with your ex, would have things had worked out eventually? We will never know that, and there is absolutely no point into thinking that, into replaying over and over this scenario in your head, because it is not reality. So if you cannot be involved, romantically speaking, with that person right now, there is absolutely no point in daydreaming about what life could have been with them, or what life could be in an alternate reality where you guys are both married to each other. There is no point thinking about that. So rid yourself of that thought right away, if you want a quick recovery, that is. Now, you have to understand that once you free yourself from preconceived ideals about how your lover should behave, and free yourself from being a slave to your own passions, you will be free to create new relationships that complement and enhance your personal and authentic endeavors. Unfortunately, until you have reached this point, you will be unable to form successful relationships with other people. Therefore, getting over your ex is necessary, and it is of extreme importance if you want to move on healthily and gracefully. you have to truly detach yourself from the idea that romantic love is what makes you alive or what makes you complete. I hear so many patients telling me, oh, he made me feel so alive, he made me feel so complete. No, F that, no, this is so cringy. The problem with love is that it involves a lot of problems such as liability, dependence, I don't know, self-renunciation. And see, life is actually quite simple. I mean, you or we were born alone, we will die alone. We are solitary beings by nature, and therefore any promise or obligation to someone else is an illegitimate constraint. These are pretty hard to accept, but they are the truth. See, the problem with our society right now, because everything is always linked to society, is that because of cultural heritage, mainly because of, Christianity in the Western world, but we could say the same about, Confucius' teachings in the Eastern world. Loving relationships are perceived through, or at least conceived in the light of 4 different issues that make love problematic. First of all, there is the distorted view of femininity. I'm sure you are familiar with that. Secondly, the unnatural character of agape. I'm not sure how you pronounce that, but I think, Christian love, which is unnatural. And, if you prefer, there is also, thirdly, the demonization of sex, which has been going on for centuries and centuries, and I don't even know, it doesn't even make sense anymore that it is still an issue. And finally, the institution, I can't say that, the fact that marriage is an institution, basically. So these 4 things, distorted image of women, for unnatural Christian love, demonization of sex, and marriage institutionalization are problematic, and they basically transformed love into something that suddenly became very, complicated. If you are familiar with Nietzsche philosophy, you will understand what I mean, because I am realizing I don't make much sense right now because you look quite lost. All in all, love is an animal or an animalistic instinct. It is, of course, an instinct, an instinctual force that is related to the fact that we are biological beings, and some would say that therefore it can never be considered as a moral good. I myself disagree with that. I wouldn't go to such extent, but it is true that unfortunately, if we are not careful, love can become one of the closest things to greed or lust or possession. And it may actually be the most ingenious expression of egoism or selfishness, if you prefer. Of course, I wouldn't dive too much into the whole, Nietzsche understanding of love, since he claims that women and men have a different experience of love, understand love differently, and that women completely surrender to love and only thrive to become, to be taken and become a possession, whereas men are inclined to treat women as slaves. And, those who are inclined towards complete devotion are not real men. But that's that's bullshit. That is not true. I'm an existentialist, but I don't go to these extents. That is too much for me. Although romantic love does present some various and complex problems, which have mostly to do with the fact that we tend to not be in complete harmony with ourselves when we are in love. We might think that we do, but we don't. For example, idolizing your lover and making sacrifices, not healthy, especially if that sacrifice is your own freedom for the sake of security, which prevents yourself from authentic love. And there are many miscellaneous pitfalls when it comes to romantic love. And I would say, I don't know, like for example, another example of common mistake would be the desire of merging with your lover. You know, like that's when you're like, oh, I want to be, we just want to be one being. I don't know if you watched How I Met Your Mother a few years back, but you know, Lily and Marshall kind of love, you know, like we just want to be one person. That is absolutely unhealthy. And you know, that is because these people wrongfully think that they are meant to be, as in, you know, they believe in some, you know, idiotic social or biological destiny, which, you know, does not exist. Some people also have the tendency to want to, you know, possess or dominate their lovers, which is also something that you should not fall into, you know, as if the other person was an object. That is obviously wrong. I mean, I don't need to point that out for you. And on the other hand, some people want to find their own goal. They want to find their own meaning, their own purpose in their lover, so they're using their significant other to find meaning in themselves, which is incredibly foolish because they find themselves empty-handed once the relationship ends. So I mean, I know it sounds like, you know, love is vain, is all in vain, and, you know, like it will never work out. But no, of course, there are ways to develop, you know, a true, authentic love, such as, for example, you know, recognizing your significant other as, you know, free and equal, and by avoiding the, you know, slave-master dynamic. I'm not talking about coitus. I am talking about, you know, life relationship, like, and, you know, you should as well understand that the person that you date is different from you, and you should embrace that difference, and you should accept and appreciate the fact that that person is different because they're different, you know. So there's no point in, you know, trying to be exactly like them or have them to be exactly like you. And I guess the final, you know, key to have a successful relationship is to, you know, be aiming together at the same direction, at a common goal. But, you know, I guess that you guys, I mean, you and your ex, you messed up one of these, you know, steps. Otherwise, you would still be together, and obviously you're not, so you probably screwed one of these things up. Anyway, whatever caused the breakup, it's done, it's in the past, and, you know, you must make peace with the fact that there is no going back, there is no repairing what has been done, and there is no, you know, getting back together for now, or, you know, ever, probably ever. So once you have accepted that, you will get better. It will be easier to move on, you know. And maybe instead of looking for love, you should right now be looking for friendship. Friendship is a much easier thing to achieve than love, because it keeps, you know, a good balance between the authenticity of the relationship and, you know, the other person's freedom, and both people, like, and everyone's freedom. I think it was Simone de Beauvoir who says, or who once wrote, that friendship is a much better basis for the relationship that one built on merging, because it respects the other as a free subject, you know, and accepts that the other has, you know, independence projects, and that someone else has a life that is not necessarily linked to yours or has anything to do with yours, you know, like you don't have to be in their life or in every project of theirs. Now, obviously, I'm not telling you to become friends with your ex. Maybe one day you will, and that's great. But I'm actually advising you to, you know, make new friends or reinforce the friendships that you have, because, I mean, this is a hard time that you're going through. And of course, you can go see a shrink like myself, but the best thing to do really is to surround yourself with people who love you. And I mean, you know, not love, I mean, like friends love, you know. And, you know, friendships are so much easier to deal with, basically, compared to loving relationship or romantic love, because they are easier to achieve, and, you know, you don't have that greed that comes with love, and that clouds your judgment. And if your friendship ends, it's usually less dramatic than when your, you know, loving relationship ends. So yeah. Now, my final advice to you is that you should distract yourself with something meaningful. Like, I don't know, you read, a new book, or you start to, I don't know, write poetry or draw, join a band, do something that makes you happy and that elevates you, And another important thing is that you should identify your emotions. Get a notebook or write that in your phone, I don't know, like you have a note app, and acknowledge the emotions you are going through, even if they seem negative. It's important to be able to identify the feelings that you're going through so that you can, learn to deal with them, but you have to, accept them at first. And, most importantly, that is probably the most important advice that I can give you, is that you should not try to get your ex back. You should not be scheming, you shouldn't be like, elaborating some plan to get back together. You should be trying to get yourself back. Yes, learn to be single again, rediscover yourself. It's a beautiful voyage, and you should be enjoying it. Okay, I'll admit this one is from Cosmopolitan, but it is a good advice, and yeah, but rise above. Oh, I think our time is up. Yeah. Oh no, I am afraid that your insurance doesn't cover our sessions. It's $78.99. We take coupons as well. We take everything. So, same time next week.